In the late 1600s, a forest gardener walks beneath the canopy of the woodland that he helps maintain. The first chill breeze of the season makes him shiver, but he knows that the onset of colder weather will be perfect for finding what he's looking for. The forest is dominated by Norway spruce, tall conical conifers whose densely packed needles at least partly mitigate the wind. He has cared for these trees for several decades and knows them like the back of his hand, which is why it doesn't take long to reach the tree he has in mind. He lays a hand on the bark for a moment, then takes out a small borer. He bores a little hole in the tree, listening carefully as it burrows through the tightly packed layers. The wood is dense. The 2 centuries prior have been cold, favoring slow growth. It is perfect. The tree is felled, and its wood is stored and seasoned for several decades. Then, in the year 1715, a slab of its wood is purchased by a man from the small town of Cremona. He carves the wood to make the soundboard of a violin, a very particular violin with a very special sound. The man is Antonio Stradivari, and the violin will become the most valuable ever. In 2025, it will sell for $23 million. The Norway spruce that made the violin's soundboard came from a place called Il Bosco che Suona, the musical woods. The woods still exist to this day and are still managed with one singular purpose in mind: to produce trees that go on to make the most exquisite violins in the world. You're listening to Plant Connection. Life today can feel overwhelming, like we've drifted away from its natural rhythm. This podcast is your space to slow down, breathe, and rediscover the peace and clarity that come from reconnecting with the natural world. I'm your host, Lisa Cutshaw. Let's reconnect, one plant at a time. Though you might not have realized it, we've all seen plenty of Norway spruce, particularly in December. They are one of the species that commonly make their way into our houses in the festive season, to be decked with baubles and tinsel. The first recorded instance of a Norway spruce Christmas tree was in 1841, when Queen Victoria received one from her doting husband, Prince Albert, decked out with candles in the German style. In fact, Norway gifts Washington, D.C. with a 30 to 35-foot Norway spruce every year to show its ongoing gratitude for the role of the U.S. in World War II. The tree is displayed in the beautiful Washington Union Station and decorated with thousands of lights and baubles. But what is a Norway spruce when it's out in the woods rather than in our homes? As the name suggests, it's not a North American species, but rather is native to Europe. Nevertheless, it made its way over here in the 18th century and is now found all over the continent. It's a tough and vigorous tree, which is probably why it established itself so successfully here, not to mention that it is used and admired by many for its pleasing triangular shape and utility as an effective windbreak. It can reach up to 130 feet tall, and its needles give off a rich, sweet aroma. And as our opening story suggests, they can live for a very long time. Stradivari used wood from spruces that were a couple of centuries old, but these trees were not exactly seniors. Their average lifespan is around 300 years, but in the far north, they can reach many hundreds more, given they are only growing and therefore metabolizing extremely slowly. In fact, the Norway spruce also has a clever trick up its sleeve to extend its lifespan even further. They can grow brand new trunks, for instance, from branches touching the ground or following the death of an existing trunk. This is a process called clonal growth. While they look like new trees, these new growths are genetically identical to the original, and what's more, they share a root system. Using this method, a spruce can survive for millennia. Take Old Chico, for instance, one of the oldest trees in the world. Found on the side of the windswept Fullefjallet mountain in the Swedish tundra, Old Chico is a Norway spruce with over 9,500 years to its name, meaning it predates human civilization by several thousand years. The plant has likely spent most of its life as a small shrub, its growth stunted by the harsh climate, but the global warming of the past 50 years has caused a tall trunk to grow. Given it has survived through clonal growth, it's the roots that are the oldest part of the tree. And here's a sweet bonus tidbit. Old Chico is named after the beloved late dog of the husband and wife team of scientists that discovered it. This might be a good time to apologize to all Swedish and Italian speakers. I don't speak those languages, so I hope I'm coming close to the correct pronunciation. If not, forgive me. So let's return to the magical Il Bosco che Suona in the Italian Alps. These woods have a long and storied history. Renaissance luthiers such as Stradivari, Guarneri, and Amati all sourced their soundboards from these woods. The soundboard of the violin, also called the table, is the front part, the gently curving belly with S-shaped sound holes. The sides and backs of violins, on the other hand, are typically made from maple wood, ideally sourced from Bosnia. But staying with our spruce, the musical woods are found within the Paneveggio forest of the Fiemme Valley, where the climate and altitude favors slow growth. The woodland is managed by dedicated forest gardeners to ensure the spruce trees grow straight, tall, and close together, receiving just enough light and water to grow at the gradual, consistent pace needed to produce the dense, homogeneous wood favored by violin makers, or luthiers. When the trees are 2 to 3 centuries old, they are ready for harvest. The forest gardeners seek trees with a dry heart, which will yield the best resonance for violins, which is why Norway spruce is often called tone wood or resonance wood. These qualities make the tree ideal for other instruments too, such as grand pianos and harps. When it comes to violins suitable for a virtuoso, most trees will not make the cut, as it were. Only one spruce in 10,000 may have the ideal density and other qualities to be a Stradivarius tree, and will only reach its musical potential in the hands of a genius luthier. If the forest gardeners find a good tree, they will cut it after fall, and when the moon is lowest on the horizon, to ensure the sap is low in the tree. The wood must then be seasoned for between 10 and 50 years before the luthiers can use it. It's a long, drawn-out process. The growth and harvest cycles of these trees are measured in centuries, yet the gardeners ensure their legacy endures. They favor cutting trees where new saplings are found below them, opening up a sunlit clearing to enable these young trees to grow ready for the luthiers of future centuries. But despite this long-term thinking, the future of the woodland may be in peril. Back in October 2018, 120-mile-per-hour winds felled millions of trees across the Italian Alps, including this spruce woodland. Local communities leapt into action to salvage as many of the tone woods as they could, spurred by crowdfunding investments. This windfall of dead trees also sparked a proliferation of the European spruce bark beetle, a pest that sucks the sap of these trees until they die. Forest workers are combating them using pheromone traps, which can catch thousands of beetles per trap. And we must also remember that the trees require a consistent cold climate for ideal growth. In fact, the best trees grew during the Little Ice Age of centuries past, when temperatures across the North Atlantic were particularly cold. Climatic changes, including droughts and storms, may spell the end for this magical woodland. Thankfully, though this woodland has an uncertain future, Norway spruce as a species is doing well. It is abundant across Europe and North America, and is also important for woodland ecosystems. With that in mind, let's explore this tree's ecology a little. Norway spruce flowers in the springtime, and has distinct male and female cone-shaped flowers, known as strobili. The male strobili are yellow-brown and form clusters along the branches. The more distinctive female strobili are red and stand upright at the tips of the branches. When pollinated, these female strobili will turn into long cones, up to 6 inches long, which is where the seeds are found. In the right ecosystem, Norway spruce supports a diverse range of wildlife. Insects such as beetles, weevils, and hoverflies shelter in the foliage, while the leaves are eaten by the caterpillars of several species of moth. The flowers are wind-pollinated, so don't support animal pollinators, but the cones are extremely popular with squirrels. Both red and gray squirrels eat the cones, and the smaller red squirrels also use the trees as cover and nesting sites. In places like the UK, where the native red squirrel is being displaced by the invasive American gray squirrel, these spruce trees are considered important for helping sustain the red squirrel population. However, it's worth remembering that Norway spruce is not a native of the US, and while it's generally considered naturalized rather than invasive, There are reports of it outcompeting native vegetation in areas of the northeastern U.S. Though there is an interesting alternative angle concerning a truly invasive species, native hemlocks in the U.S. are currently under attack from the invasive hemlock woolly adelgid insect, and as they are lost, so is the wildlife that uses this plant for habitat. But hemlock shares a lot of characteristics with Norway spruce. Both have short needles and provide dense canopy cover, which could make Norway spruce a good surrogate habitat for displaced wildlife. So despite not being a native, these trees are mostly considered welcome additions to our ecosystems. Let's go back to how we humans relate to this personable tree. Aside from violins, how else do we interact with the Norway spruce? As it happens, Norway spruce can provide sustenance in times of scarcity. Its inner bark, for example, can be ground up and dried to make a soup thickener, giving the plant the alternative name of bread tree. The young needles can be made into a tea rich in vitamin C and antioxidants. In fact, back in the age of sail, spruce beer was a popular treatment for scurvy. The needles are also rich in terpenes, the aromatic compound that gives these trees their distinctive fragrance. They're a natural defense against herbivores and pathogens, and when we consume them, they can also protect us against disease as well. These terpenes are also found in the resin, which can be used to make turpentine. Historically, turpentine was used to waterproof ships, but these days it's more commonly employed as a solvent. The resin may also have insect repellent properties if we can get the recipe right, something scientists are currently looking into. If you like the idea of a Norway spruce in your garden, remember you're in for the long haul. These are very long-lived trees. They're also quite large. In a mild climate, they can grow surprisingly quickly. If you're very far north, they will still grow, but more slowly. The tree prefers moist, well-drained, and slightly acidic soil, and full sun or partial shade. And here's an idea. If you plant your spruce in a large pot, you can bring it indoors every year as a living Christmas tree. More ecologically friendly, and a great way to appreciate the year-on-year growth and development of your garden companion. After all, a spruce should be for life, not just for Christmas. So as we bring this episode to a close, let's appreciate the versatility and generosity of the Norway spruce. In his famous book, Meetings with Remarkable Trees, the great tree lover Thomas Pakenham considered it to be a tree of presence and personality, and I fully agree. Don't you? Thank you for joining me on this journey back to nature with Plant Connection. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to tap subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss the next episode. See you next time.